Hello and welcome to Symphony Notes, the new video news series from the Annapolis Symphony Orchestra. My name is Patrick Nugent. Symphony Notes is your regular peek behind the curtain at the Annapolis Symphony. Symphony Notes will feature a variety of guests to give you a sneak preview into coming concerts and special projects and other interesting things going on at the Annapolis Symphony. This series is produced with help from the Arts Council of Anne Arundel County and the Elville Center for the Creative Arts. Today's guest is the Symphony's music director, José-Luis Novo, now in his 14th year as music director and holder of the prestigious Philip Richebourg Chair at the Symphony. Thank you for joining us today, José-Luis.
My pleasure.
The Symphony's next concert is Friday and Saturday, March 29th and 30th at 8 p.m. at Maryland Hall. For tickets, you can visit the Annapolis Symphony website. So I've invited José-Luis here to explore the music with us and to get a sense of what we're going to be hearing and seeing at this coming concert. Our fourth concert of our Masterwork series is featuring one of the greatest works of all classical music, the Ninth Symphony of Ludwig van Beethoven. The famous fourth movement, the fourth big section of this piece, requires a chorus and 4 vocal soloists. The chorus we are welcoming to Maryland Hall is the Glee Club of the United States Naval Academy. So, José-Luis, tell us a little bit about the relationship between the Annapolis Symphony and the United States Naval Academy Glee Club.
Well, these are two local institutions that have been collaborating now for, I would say, probably over 30 years. They was already going on when I became music director. And they usually do the yearly presentation of or performance of Handel's Messiah right around the holidays, which is a classic that everyone wants to come to. And they bring great singers oftentimes from the Metropolitan Opera and such places. And then we also do a regular collaboration with them in the spring, what they call the oratorio concert. But beyond that, we've done other kinds of collaborations and concerts. This is, I think, a first for the symphony to invite them to perform in our series. So we are very excited about doing that.
One of the things that makes it possible is that in the last few years, Maryland Hall has done a complete renovation of its performance theater, including putting an acoustical shell around the stage that helps the sound come out to where the audience is, but also now is big enough to hold a chorus, which last season it couldn't. And we're really grateful to Maryland Hall and their president, Margaret Davis, who has made that happen.
And that was one of the reasons why we couldn't do this before.
Exactly. So Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, a symphony typically has 4 or 5 big chunks, big movements, but not many classical symphonies have a full chorus. Why did Beethoven do this when he wrote the Ninth?
Well, you know, Beethoven, as everyone knows, was a genius. And when he composed this last symphony, his Ninth Symphony, he was practically deaf. So he was putting into the play all his personal experience about dealing with his deafness, but also knowing that he was approaching his death and he wanted to leave for the world something absolutely great. So he was really pushing the boundaries. And this piece does that. It's kind of a clashing of cultures. And the chorus in here sort of tells you that he's playing around with not limiting the symphony to instruments, but mixing it with voices, which is something that was never done before.
And what is the chorus singing when they're singing?
Well, the chorus is singing the famous Ode to Joy by Schiller, the great German poet. And that was partially why Beethoven thought that including a chorus was a great idea, because it would add the power of the text on top of the voices and the instrumental music.
So this season has to do with music and film. Is there a film connection to Beethoven's Ninth?
Oh, Beethoven's Ninth has been used in so many movies that it would take me forever to enumerate all of them. But a very famous one is, Kubrick's, I don't even know how you say that in English, the Clockwork Orange.
Clockwork Orange,
Yeah.
Okay. So Beethoven's Ninth, it's one of the most beloved works in all of classical music. As a conductor and as an artist, how do you make it new and fresh?
Well, you have to get to the score and sort of revisit everything from scratch because it's a piece that is so full of information and it's over 70 minutes long. And a trivia interesting thing for our audience to notice is that when the LPs were being created that now they seem a piece of history, they were discussing how long they should be. And the element that sort of helped people decide that was the length of Beethoven's symphony, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Most of the performances last between 72 to 75 minutes. So that was the length of the LP, so that you could fit in one LP the whole Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Otherwise, it would have been a waste.
Wow, that's marvelous. I didn't know
But
that.
going back to your question, you have to revisit the score and sort of approach it as you are starting for the first time and bringing to the fore all these beautiful new elements that the music has, all the innovation that it meant to be in the world of the symphony prior to it.
Now, the other piece in this concert is very different. Can you describe it for us?
Yes, it's a piece by American composer Eric Whitacre, and it's called Deep Field, and it has to do with the footage that the Hubble, the great telescope, caught from space a few years back and provided by the NASA. And this footage created an impression on the composer that was wanted to transmit into sounds. And I think that in some ways, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony is sort of the same thing. It's kind of looking the world from above us and trying to put ourselves in perspective, in a perspective in which the human being becomes almost insignificant. But if we are able to look at the world from a much wider perspective, then everything sort of makes sense and everything sort of falls into place. And I think that element has a great connection. Not to mention that Whitacre was inspired by music the first time when he sang Mozart's Requiem. So he has a very strong connection to choral singing, personal connection. And obviously both pieces use a chorus, so that's another important aspect.
The connection that I see between these two pieces is Beethoven's Ninth, I find cosmic. As you were saying, it recalls the universe, but at the same time, it ends up focusing on one of the most primal human experiences, that of joy. This piece, I think, does the same thing, but ends up inspired by and evoking wonder, which is another really primal human experience. So they're both cosmic and intimate, both pieces, to my eye.
Absolutely, and I think that one of the great things about great works of art is that they survive age, they survive everything. And the case of, obviously, Beethoven's Ninth, which is the longest piece of art here, it can even survive mediocre performances, which not many works of art can. But that tells you that the music is so great that speaks on its own, independently of the tilt that the performers can bring to it.
Now, in this concert, you will be conducting the Beethoven, but Deep Field will be conducted by Dr. Aaron Smith, who is the Director of Musical Activities at the Naval Academy. How common is it for two conductors to share the podium at one concert, and why would you do that?
Well, usually it's not very common if you have an organization with one music director. Usually the music director is the one who conducts. In this case, this is a collaboration between two organizations. So it does make sense to have both directors collaborate as well and have one conduct one piece and the other one conduct another piece. So I think from my point of view, it can only be an enriching experience for everyone, the performers and the audience, because you have two different minds approaching artworks.
Sure. So in this concert, many people in our audience will have heard about Beethoven's Ninth, but might never have actually heard it especially in a live concert hall. What could an audience member do to prepare themselves to hear this piece?
Well, several things. I think one very obvious thing is prepare yourself for an incredible musical journey. A long one as well, because as we were saying earlier, it's a 70-some minute piece long. So you have to be ready to be focused for that amount of time. But then also, the piece is a journey because you start with the symphony has 4 movements or 4 big sections. The first one starts very quiet and it's sort of the murmuring of the cosmos. And here you have another connection with the Whittaker composition. And then little by little, the music starts building up and create this tumultuous sound, almost like a volcano. So you go from a very soft beginning to a eruptive energy that is unbelievable. And that happens fairly quickly. And the music is going to go back and forth a lot. So sort of taking you into this kind of tumultuous path that you have to just go along and try to navigate. But along with that, there are many lyrical, beautiful moments that you will enjoy. That's just in the first movement. Then we have the second movement, which is called a scherzo, and it's basically animated movement with lots of different short motifs that they are piled up in each other with exhilarating energy, with a timpani that keeps interrupting in a way that is going to be surprising but very interesting. We get to the third movement, which is lyrical and absolutely gorgeous. It's sort of an alternation between 2 melodies that Beethoven uses to create variations on it, which means that he's going to be alternating melodies and adorning them in different ways. And that's just the prelude to the last movement, which is the meat and potatoes of the piece. So we arrive to the fourth movement, and Beethoven gets the orchestra bigger. He adds percussion, more percussion. He adds the trombones, piccolo, and then he adds the choruses and the 4 vocal soloists. And then we are going to have a journey of clashing noise at the beginning. It starts with thunderous energy, and then remembering little bits of the previous movements, goes to the first movement, second movement, third movement, and then wrapping this up, again, clashing energy, and then the baritone soloist becomes with the first words of Schiller's Ode to Joy. And that's an incredible moment because he's sort of telling people, wait, after all this chaos and noise, there is hope. And that particular journey from that moment to the end of the piece is absolutely magical because it's going to be bringing us into the hope in the human species that Beethoven had and Beethoven believed in. And that's what, when we get to the end of the piece, which is absolutely triumphant, we feel that we have overcome some major life experience that we will never have again. And you obviously end up enriched.
Marvelous, marvelous. Well, we're delighted to be able to announce to our audiences that the Annapolis Symphony Orchestra has become an affiliate program of the Music Center at Strathmore in North Bethesda, Maryland. Annapolis Symphony at Strathmore will be an annual event, and it's going to happen on Sunday, March 31st, the day after our 2 Maryland Hall concerts. It's exactly the same concert. Tickets are available at the Strathmore box office. So, José-Luis, the symphony has played 3 times in previous years, the most recent years, at Strathmore, and we're delighted to be there again, now as a member of Strathmore's affiliate network. Why bother playing at Strathmore? Why would we do that? What difference does it make to you as a conductor?
Having a beautiful instrument like the Annapolis Symphony performing in a beautiful space like the Strathmore Center, it's just a luxurious experience for me personally as a conductor, but also for the audience because the acoustics of the Strathmore Center are such that everything sounds at its best. So it's an absolute joy connecting with Beethoven's Ninth Symphony to performing there. That independently that we love performing at Maryland Hall, it's just a completely different experience, but it also allows us to bring the orchestra to a completely different audience and get the orchestra out there to be known better.
So we encourage you to think about attending both our Maryland Hall concert and our Strathmore concert on Sunday the 31st. Both should be very special experiences. Thank you, José-Luis, for sharing your thoughts with us today about this remarkable concert. And thank you for joining us again for Symphony Notes. Remember, our next concert is Friday and Saturday, March 29th and 30th, 8 o'clock, Maryland Hall, and then the following Sunday at 3 o'clock on the 31st at Strathmore Music Center in North Bethesda, Maryland. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends. Share it with anybody you know. We are so fortunate in Annapolis to have such a marvelous art scene, and the Annapolis Symphony Orchestra is privileged to be part of that. Share the world's greatest music right in your backyard with as many people as you can. Thank you so much to the Arts Council of Anne Arundel County and the Elville Center for the Creative Arts for making this series possible. For Symphony Notes, I'm Patrick Nugent. Thank you for watching.